Picture this. It's 2 a.m. on a freezing January night. The temperature outside has plummeted to minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. You're wrapped in blankets, sleeping peacefully, when suddenly, everything goes dark. The furnace stops humming. The refrigerator falls silent. Your phone's battery is at 12%. And outside, isolated power lines snap under the weight, taking down transformers and utility poles like dominoes. This isn't a scene from a dystopian movie. This is the reality that millions of Americans faced during Winter Storm Fern in January 2026, and before that, during the catastrophic Texas blackouts of February 2021. Yet, despite these wake-up calls, most Americans remain shockingly unprepared for what experts are calling an increasingly inevitable threat, a real winter blackout. Today, we're going to explore why the United States power grid is more vulnerable than ever, why most households are dangerously unprepared, and most importantly, what you can do right now to protect yourself and your family when the lights go out in the dead of winter. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. Our power grid was never designed for the extreme weather events we're experiencing today. According to the North American Electric Reliability Corporation's 2025 to 2026 Winter Reliability Assessment, rising electricity demand forecasts combined with a continued shift in the resource mix are creating unprecedented vulnerabilities across the bulk power system. What does this mean in plain English? Our electricity infrastructure is aging, demand is skyrocketing, and the weather is becoming increasingly unpredictable and severe. Winter Storm Fern, which struck in January 2026, was actually more severe and impacted more Americans than Texas's infamous Winter Storm Uri in 2021. Yet somehow, it received less national attention, perhaps because we become numb to these once-in-a-generation storms that now seem to happen every few years. The cold, hard facts are these. Most of the nation's power grids are at elevated or high risk of energy shortfalls within the next 3 years. Areas particularly at risk include Texas, the upper Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic region, the Pacific Northwest, and New England. While much attention has been paid to power plant winterization, or the lack thereof, Winter Storm Fern revealed another critical vulnerability in our aging power grid, the distribution system itself. We're talking about the wires and poles that carry electricity from house to house. These aren't glamorous components of our energy infrastructure. They're the wooden utility poles standing along your street, the overhead lines swaying in the wind. Many of these poles are decades old, and when ice storms hit, they become catastrophic failure points. During winter storms, heavy accumulations of ice and snow, coupled with fluctuating temperatures, bring down utility poles, trees, and limbs. This disrupts power not for hours, but for days, sometimes weeks. Distribution outages are the most common cause of power interruptions during winter storms, and they're also the hardest to fix quickly because crews must physically go to each damaged location to make repairs. Think about that for a moment. While power plants might be running fine, your neighborhood could still be without electricity for a week because a tree fell on a power line 3 blocks away. Here's where things get complicated. The cascading risks that led to the 2021 Texas blackouts haven't been fully resolved. What happened was a feedback loop between two critical systems, electricity and natural gas. When extreme cold hit Texas in 2021, natural gas facilities froze because they weren't winterized. But here's the catch. Many power plants run on natural gas. So when gas production dropped, power plants couldn't operate. But wait, it gets worse. Those natural gas facilities need electricity to operate their equipment and pumps. So the gas system needs the electric system, and the electric system needs the gas system. When one fails in extreme cold, it creates a domino effect that can bring down the entire grid. Texas has since implemented more stringent standards for power plants and gas facilities to ensure they can withstand extreme winter weather. But the question remains, is it enough? And what about the other 49 states? There's another factor making winter blackouts more likely. We're consuming more electricity than ever before, especially in winter. About 60% of heating in Texas is electrical heating, often in inefficient forms like resistive heating or heat pumps that revert to emergency heat during extreme cold. When temperatures plummet, Everyone cranks up their heat simultaneously, creating record-breaking demand spikes. Add to this the explosion of data centers across America. Those massive facilities that power the internet, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence. These facilities consume enormous amounts of electricity 24/7, and they're multiplying rapidly. The growing energy demands from data centers, combined with residential heating needs during polar vortex events, create a perfect storm for grid overload. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation warned in November 2025 that rising demand is increasing the risk of winter blackouts. With power grids already operating near capacity during extreme weather events, there's very little margin for error. It's been 5 years since the catastrophic Texas blackouts, but the lessons from that disaster remain urgently relevant for every American. Winter Storm Uri brought record-breaking low temperatures to Texas in February 2021, overwhelming the under-designed Texas power grid. The results were devastating. Hundreds of deaths, over 4.5 million homes and businesses without power, some for nearly a week, and an estimated $130 billion in damages. People froze to death in their homes. Families burned furniture to stay warm. Hospitals operated on backup generators while treating hypothermia patients. Pipes froze in unheated buildings, then burst, causing not only water damage, but also critical water shortages across major cities. The extreme cold weather led to record-high winter electricity demand and a dramatic decrease in electricity supply due to limitations in gas availability and inadequate winterization of power generation facilities. Grid operators faced an impossible choice: initiate rolling blackouts to prevent total grid collapse, or risk blackouts that could have occurred for months. They chose rolling blackouts. But for millions of Texans, those rolling blackouts lasted days. In the aftermath, Texas implemented reforms. Power plants and gas facilities now face more stringent winterization standards. The state has added more battery storage and demand response resources. When another winter storm tested the Texas grid in January 2026, it held up better, though not perfectly. But here's the critical question: what about everywhere else? The vulnerabilities that brought down Texas's grid exist in power systems across America. Most states haven't experienced a catastrophic winter blackout yet, which means most states haven't implemented the expensive winterization measures that Texas was forced to adopt. This is human nature. We don't prepare for disasters until after they happen. But it's also a dangerous gamble. Researchers who studied the Texas blackouts identified what they call cascading risks, when failures in one system trigger failures in interconnected systems, creating a snowball effect that's far worse than the sum of its parts. In Texas, the cascading risks looked like this. Extreme cold led to frozen gas production, which reduced fuel for power plants, causing power outages. Those power outages meant no electricity for gas facilities, which caused more gas production failures, leading to more power outages. Extended outages resulted in frozen pipes, water damage, and water system failures. Water failures overwhelmed emergency services and created a public health crisis. Understanding cascading risks is crucial because it reveals why individual preparation is so important. When multiple systems fail simultaneously, power, natural gas, water, communications, transportation, emergency services become overwhelmed. You can't count on help arriving quickly. You become your own first responder. Let's walk through what actually happens when the power goes out in winter, hour by hour. In the first 1 to 3 hours, you experience annoyance and confusion. Your furnace stops. You grab flashlights and candles. You check your phone for updates from the power company. Your home starts cooling, but it's still comfortable. You think, this will be fixed soon. Hours 4 to 8 bring noticeable temperature drops. If it's 20 degrees outside, your house might have cooled to 50 degrees inside. You're layering on clothes, gathering blankets. Kids are complaining. You're starting to worry about the food in your freezer. By hours 9 to 16, things are getting serious. Inside, temperatures might be in the 40s. You're shivering even with layers. You're trying to keep everyone in one room to conserve body heat. Your phone battery is dying. You can't get information. If you have a fireplace, you're burning whatever wood you have. If you don't, you're in trouble. Hours 17 to 24 mark when hypothermia becomes a real risk, especially for children and elderly family members. Inside temperatures might have dropped to the 30s. Pipes are starting to freeze. You're burning furniture if you have a fireplace. You're seriously considering whether you need to leave your home. But where would you go in these conditions? If the power isn't restored within 24 hours, everything changes. Your frozen food has thawed. Your refrigerated food is spoiling. If your water system depends on electric pumps, you have no running water. If you do have water, you're rationing it because you don't know how long this will last. Pipes throughout your home are freezing and potentially bursting. This happens even if you're not there to see it. Ice expands inside the pipes until they crack. When power is eventually restored and temperatures rise, those cracks become floods. If you use a gas stove and try to use it for heat, a common but dangerous mistake, you're risking carbon monoxide poisoning. Every year, people die from CO poisoning during power outages because they don't understand that gas appliances produce deadly, invisible fumes when used for heating. Your car is your potential lifeline, but if you didn't keep your gas tank full, you might not have enough fuel to drive somewhere with power. Gas stations don't work without electricity. Medical emergencies become life-threatening. People who depend on electric medical equipment, CPAP machines, oxygen concentrators, refrigerated medications, are in immediate danger. Beyond the physical dangers, there's a psychological breaking point that happens during extended winter blackouts. The darkness is oppressive. The cold is relentless. The uncertainty is crushing. You don't know when power will be restored. You can't get reliable information. You feel forgotten, abandoned. This isn't speculation. This is what survivors of the Texas blackouts described. The feeling that their government, their utility companies, their society had failed them in their moment of greatest need. The number one reason people don't prepare is normalcy bias. The assumption that because something hasn't happened to you yet, it won't happen. If you've never experienced a multi-day winter blackout, it's hard to imagine needing to prepare for one. It feels paranoid, excessive, maybe even a little crazy. But ask anyone who lived through the Texas blackouts, and they'll tell you, they never imagined it could happen either. Until it did. There's a widespread assumption that if something goes seriously wrong, help will arrive. Emergency services will respond. The government will step in. The power company will fix it quickly. This assumption is often wrong. During widespread winter emergencies, everyone needs help simultaneously. Emergency services are overwhelmed. Repair crews are working around the clock, but can only fix so much so fast. Government emergency operations are stretched thin. The uncomfortable truth is that during the critical first 48 to 72 hours of a winter blackout emergency, you are largely on your own. Even people who want to prepare often don't know what to do. The information available is either too vague, have emergency supplies, or too overwhelming, with detailed prepper guides that seem designed for end-of-the-world scenarios. Most people need practical, realistic guidance for the most likely emergency scenario they'll face. A power outage lasting 3 to 7 days during winter weather that prevents them from leaving their home. That's the scenario we need to prepare for. Not zombies, not nuclear war, just no power, cold weather, can't leave safely, need to survive comfortably for a week. Let's address this directly. Yes, preparing costs money. Backup power systems, emergency heaters, food storage, none of it is free. But here's the reality check. What does not being prepared cost? The Texas blackouts caused an estimated $130 billion in damages. Individual homeowners faced tens of thousands of dollars in burst pipe repairs alone. Hotels during the emergency were charging $500 plus per night for families.